The one game every football player in the country strives to be on, thinks very highly of Ollie and Zane, maybe not so much of Rangel and Shea.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we are partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Thank you for making this your first listen. Before you get done with your day, though, make sure you go check out our buddy Drake Toll at Locked On Big 12. We're going to transition right into this conversation that is permeating not only college football, but high school football. And yes, this is pertinent to today's landscape in college football because every single player in high school wants to be on this game. This is why you play your senior year of high schools, to have an opportunity to make it to collegiate ball. And once you get there, everybody wants to play with their buddy that they played high school ball with, or their friend, or even themselves. So for some of us that don't really play a lot of video games, it does still make this conversation extremely relevant. Of course, Ollie Gordon was going to be the highest rated Cowboy in the game, but let's take a gander at some of the other guys that may have been a surprise. I think if you look at the entire 80 names, a lot of them do make some sense, right? But let's talk about some of the main features, right? In the speed category, we would have had A.J. Green as number one with 95 overall, which accentuates why it's going to be a travesty not to see him run the ball in Stillwater this season, but hopefully we get him back next year. Then you have Brendan Presley at 92 alongside Cameron Hurd, Talon Shetron, and Gavin Freeman, all at 92 speed. Top five Cowboys in strength. Of course, number one, Justin Kirkland at a 97 overall, followed by Colin Clay, 96, Aiden Kelly, 95, Davis Dotson, 94, Joe Mahalski, 94. Top five in receiving, Brendan Presley, 96, Dejon Stribling, 88, Bryce Drummond, 86, Rashad Owens, 86, and Talon Shetron, 80. Top five in vertical, Rashad Owens with a 97, Trey Griffiths, 96, Tyke Andrews, 93, Cam Smith, 92, Dylan Smith, 92, A.J. Green, 92. Top five in tackling, Nick Martin, of course, 97, Cody Walter-Sheet, 85, Gabe Brown, 84, Justin Wright, 81, Landon Dean, 81. It's good to see Landon Dean kind of peek up in here. I do think that he's a younger Cowboy at the defensive ends position that is going to have a pretty good season and at least introducing himself to Cowboy country. We'll talk more about that next episode. We are going to break down the defensive ends and a big surprise in the defensive end department as well. Top five for verticals. I mean, of course, that makes a lot of sense having Rashad Owens up there. Tyke Andrews, of course. I think Dejon Stribling should have been a little bit higher up there. Top five in catching. Kind of a surprise to see Bryce Drummond here, right? The Ponca tied in at 86. That's a breath of fresh news, whether he ends up at the true tight end position, fullback position, does some sort of new age iteration of the Cowboy back. It'll remain to be seen. I know words are hard for me. Top five in strength, a name that is not on here, that should be on here, even if, you have to create a character, it's going to be Armstrong Nodum. And this is coming directly from the guys in the locker room, that the only person that can legitimately lift right next to Justin Kirkland is Armstrong Nodum. So I know he's a freshman, and maybe it was the timing that didn't allow him to be on here. But there's some guys that are going to have some prove-it moments to increase their numbers for next season. Reverting back around to speed, of course, it is going to hurt that they value A.J. Green, the Arkansas transfer, so highly, and we're not going to be able to see his utilage on the field. But another one of these individuals that I think maybe is getting undervalued here and maybe not even popping up on, the original listings of the starting lineups is going to be Sesi Vealahe. I think RA covered that in an article recently, that there is a running back with a Quentin kind of name that is very similar to Sesi, but Sesi himself did not end up on the game, which is kind of crazy when you think about the dude who had to provide the running back 2 carries for the entirety of the Big 12 title game, doesn't make it on the game, and he's returning, is kind of questionable. Ollie Gordon leading the way at 96 is not a surprise. Nick Martin at a 90 makes sense. Brennan Presley, 89. Colin Oliver, 88. Joe Mahalski, 87. Rashad Owens, 86. Preston Wilson, 85. Keno Daniels, 84. Probably could have been higher. Corey Black, 84. I think it's justified, but he's going to have the opportunity this season to prove why it maybe should have been higher. I think DeJon Stribling is an absolute travesty here at 84 overall. Another big surprise to me was Dalton Cooper. How does a dude who has, that number of snaps at the left tackle position and given up only a couple of handfuls of sacks in his entirety of college football experience only score out as an 83? Well, this is going to be a year of redemption, or at least a prove-it opportunity for him. There are several Cowboys that are going to have prove-it opportunities. I think one of the biggest glaring things you notice about this game is that although they do have Garret Rangel listed as QB2 behind the 80 overall, Alan Bowman, I think 80 overall for Alan Bowman's actually not that bad. I think it's a pretty good rating. And I think it's pretty fair. Having Zane Flores, however, at a 77, it is phenomenal for the excitement level for Oklahoma State Cowboy country on what he could potentially bring to the table, of course. But at the same time, it is a little perplexing how you have Zane, who hasn't even had the opportunity to step on the field yet, to be rated not only higher than Garret Rangel, but somewhat significantly higher, 74 to 77. In the broad scheme of things, doesn't seem like the lot, but if you played the game, that can make a difference. The other crazy thing is if you're going to have Zane Flores significantly above Garret Rangel, then maybe it should be the speed category. The fact that they have Garret Rangel significantly faster than Zane Flores is a little perplexing. The throwing, accuracy, distance, medium, all that fun stuff, that's going to get sorted out in the wash. But this is going to be another, opportunity for Garret Rangel to remind people that it's not the same kid that we saw, a couple years ago. When it comes to accuracy and deep ball and the ability to fluctuate within the pocket, are we going to get the opportunity to see what Garret Rangel can do? Who knows? But this is a long season, and the Big 12 is an absolute grind. So I do think that Rangel is going to get some opportunities throughout the course of the season, just like Zane Flores is likely going to get some opportunities, even if it's just in packaging, red zone packaging, 4th and 1 style packaging. It makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of Cowboys that are on this list that I think maybe should be a little bit higher. I mean, there are some Cowboys that are a little perplexing, like the Bryce Drummond thing. I think it's phenomenal for him. It's good for the position. It's good for the family in Oklahoma State, but it is a little confusing. There are several Cowboys who have proven it's coming up this season. So we'll discuss some of those mainstays outside of the quarterback room. But before we do that, we do have to remind the fine folks out here that it's hard to do much in life, all right, if you don't have the quality vehicle behind you. eBay Motors is the quality vehicle source for you to keep the dag thing on the road. You get the MVP if you can't get there, and eBay Motors is bound and determined to help you do that. With over 122 million parts to choose from, it is easy to find everything you need. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, the part is guaranteed to fit your rig every time or your money back. Of course, the objective with eBay Motors is to have you burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, all the prices you want, it is very easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home all of the huge W's. They have the right passion, drive, and patience, as should you. This is the winning formula. Go get on ebaymotors.com today. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Keep your ride or die rig alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available for U.S. customers. So whenever you think about the Oklahoma State season that is about to be upon us, a lot of these Cowboys, like Sessi, that didn't make it on this list, definitely have something more to prove now. But I think some of the other gentlemen that have a lot to prove are going to be someone like a Cam Epps. The speed development department from Trey Rucker is absolutely massive. But Trey Rucker, is he going to be available for every single game, every single week? If he is, then we're in good shape. But we also need some other guys behind him that can, show a little bit more this season. I think Cam Epps is going to be one of those guys, not just because of the remembrance that everybody should have for the pick six he had against Kansas State that really helped us kind of, get back into the daggone thing. I know Nick Martin had a big pick six at some point in time as well that ended up being instrumental in having the success that we did in the season. But, whenever I think of some other guys, and you let me know down in the comments section as well. But some of the other guys that I think are ranked too low, like Hudson Kaak. I know last year he was utilized more as a specialist, and coming into this season, he might very well be a specialist again. But his athleticism is very rare at this position. Therefore, he provides something that not very many punters or kickers or anybody in this category can provide, and that's obviously not being shown on the stat sheet. So this is an opportunity for him to prove, not only do I have a big leg, not only do I have the capabilities to put this thing precisely where I want it, but athletically, I'm going to do more than every other punter in the Big 12, if not around the country. I think Quentin Stewart, 74, does make some sense, but is this going to be a good time for him? We've been hearing about the emergence of Josh Ford, the freshman, more often than not throughout the course of spring and early on into fall camp. What we haven't heard a lot about is Quentin Stewart, the guy who's been able to kind of come from the Coach McIndoe Cowboy back system to being a more of a true tight end. He did get a couple targets last season, and there was several times where he was running up the field virtually uncovered. Now, Tyler Foster, 74, coming over from Ohio, might make some sense. Kobe Hilton. Kobe Hilton's another one of those that is just waiting on his opportunity to make the most out of it. And no matter what happens in the safety room with Lyric or Trey or Cam, Kobe Hilton is going to be one of those veterans that we know he can on right next to somebody like a Raymond Gay II. He's been in the system for a while. He gets it. Lyric Rawls being a 78. Yeah, it makes sense. I think he could be better. Justin Kirkland. You, sir, are better than a 79 overall. I know you know that. Apparently the game doesn't know that. This is the season you need to introduce to the world that is ridiculous. I circle back around to Dalton Cooper. 83 just doesn't make sense. It's not good enough. Cameron Hurd. The speed might be there, but a 68 overall rating just means that enough people haven't seen him in what he could do on the football field. Jacoby Sanders, for being so instrumental in providing some depth to the 3 deep at the center position last season, maybe he should be a little bit higher up on this list. We all know that Cale Cabanis is better than a 59 overall. He's already shown that on the field. Tyke Andrews, maybe this is a season where he proves that this is ridiculous. Rodney Fields Jr., his speed alone should have him higher than a 66. Gunnar Wilson has the side, the strength, the speed, and he's learning how to have the awareness and the wherewithal to capitalize on this season. So it's not just about, can Ollie Gordon replicate what he did last season? Can Alan Bowman step up in this second season in this Oklahoma State system and the comfortability he has in the offensive line? It's some about those other guys that are getting undervalued, like a Garret Rangel, like a Hudson Kaak, like, oh, goodness me, I just said his name, the tackle, Dalton Cooper. But then you have some other guys like Cam Hurd and Talon Shetron that are just waiting to have more opportunities. If Talon Shetron could stay healthy throughout an entire season, I think the sky's the limit for what that guy can do. And you've already seen some of the DLHS crew putting out some of the clips of them playing this game early. And there are some pretty cool clips of Talon getting the ball and taking off and nobody been able to catch him. That's the Talon Shetron that we've all been waiting for. Dijon Stribling is definitely underrated, but the world has to see it. So there's going to be prove-it moments all across the board. I like to have the interactive moments to ask you, who do you think, based on some of the numbers that you've seen for the Cowboys, who is going to have a massive prove-it season? I've been a big believer in Deshaun Brown. Is this his time to not get so close to sacks, but actually come down with all the sacks? Is this the season that Cam Epps explodes? Right? Is this the year that Lyric Rawls introduces himself to the country outside of Stillwater, Oklahoma? There's not a lot of questions entering this season for Oklahoma State. I think the inner questions are worth their weight in gold, because these are questions these players have to ask themselves. Am I prepared to do more this season, to get myself more opportunities this season? And the ones that are prepared to do so, that don't go through the injury bug, will typically flourish as the season progresses. I cannot wait for it. Just like I also can't wait for Josh Holliday and Cowboy baseball to get back where we belong, which is Omaha, at least Super Regionals. Carson Benge getting selected in the first round as number 19 overall by the New York Mets is obviously a good step in that process. Well, as you may have noticed recently, we had much more Cowboys get drafted in day 2. Brian Holiday, third-round selection by the St. Louis Cardinals. No surprise there. Zach Earhart, a fourth-round pick by the Boston Red Sox. The BYU transfer Jensen Kiesel was picked up in the 6th round by the Tampa Bay Rays. Robert Crans, the Wichita State transfer that ended up being the most vital closer on the season, was picked up in the 7th round by the Washington Nationals. And Sam Garcia, the high point, 6.7 whatever ERA guy, Rob Walton, figured some stuff out with Sam, and he helped Sam end up becoming an 8th-round pick by the Milwaukee Brewers. Although this is insanely exciting, I have to admit that it's also frustrating to know that we have this many quality Cowboys get drafted and our season end up the way that it did. But we're not going to harp on that. What we are going to, tip our hat to is say thank you to these guys who did provide a pretty exciting season for Oklahoma State that did end in a Big 12 tournament championship title. That is a big deal. And Brian Holiday was instrumental in all of the success that we had this season, as he was ranked 7th nationally in strikeouts. He made 16 starts for the Cowboys, posted a 2.95 ERA, and opponents hit just 199 against him, which was 4th in the Big 12. He led the Big 12 with 113 innings after coming by way of JUCO in Central Florida. He'll always be remembered as another one of those Cowboys with those, quintessential meme-worthy moments. He was top 10 nationally in strikeout rate. He's going to be missed. Zach Earhart, we didn't see the full potential of him until his junior season. We saw little glimpses, right? We knew that he could run. We knew that he could cover in the outfield. He was a phenomenal force on the defensive side of the ball. He could hit. He just never really hit for power. Well, this previous season, he decided to jack up 14 home runs, 57 RBIs to go with his .330 batting average to prove that he had some meat and taters to go along with the speed and the consistency. He led the Big 12 in 75 runs scored and was ranked 19th nationally with doubles and 54 walks. Jensen Kiesel came over from BYU. A lot of us had big plans for Jensen. But after a 2-1 record at Oklahoma State and a 4.93 ERA, this previous season, he decided to take his talents on elsewhere. We talked about Robert Krantz coming over from Wichita State. He was the star of the bullpen for the Cowboys. Realistically, ended up being the saves guy at the end of the season with a 1.63 ERA, 59 strikeouts, and 49 2/3 innings. Sam Garcia, I think, is somewhat reminiscent of a couple of the other transfers that we've gotten recently for Cowboy baseball and Rob Walton. So a shout out to the Cowboys that did get drafted: Carson Benge, Brian Holiday, Zach Earhart, Jensen Kiesel, Robert Krantz, Sam Garcia. Carson Benge, as we mentioned yesterday, the fact that he got picked by the Mets right after they just got Nolan McLean previously last year, that's a pretty cool thing that they have going on in New York. So even if you're not a hardcore baseball fan, it will be very, very interesting to see what they're going to do with Carson Benge and Nolan McClain. This two-way player is kind of catching fire here, and we've had several of them. The question is, will Oklahoma State be better this upcoming season? Because we think we've got some stuff lined out with Rob Walton. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments section about some of the Cowboys that you think are going to be drafted this upcoming season. I'm sure you've seen some of the summer league stuff. Nolan Schubert's having a massive summer, as is Gabe Davis. We've been seeing a lot of clips for Donovan LaSalle out there as well, hitting some game winners. It's a good time to be a Cowboy fan, and it's a good time to go scoop up your copy of the college football game. I'm not a big gaming individual, but I will admit my son wanted a Xbox something back in the day, 2013, 2014-ish. And I said, no, it's unnecessary. We don't need it. And then he got me with the cover of RG3 and Barry Sanders. And we were at, I don't know what kind of store, but he was like, Dad, look, we can play this on Xbox. We just have to buy the Xbox. He had the game somehow. He just needed the console. I got the console, and I got addicted. All right. We may or may not have stayed up till 2, 3 in the morning a couple times on school nights when he was a little kid. Maybe. But if you haven't had the opportunity to get in on this action, I haven't yet, but I am contemplating. It could be worth just seeing some of the players develop. And I'll tell you another thing that playing the game does do as a fan is if you implement some of the players like Assesi Velahe, if you were to put him in the game as number 20 or number 3 or whatever and swap out the name, and then you see the development that naturally occurs throughout the course of the game, it does make you much more familiar with the players on the roster and the positions they play or where they are in the depth chart, what their sizes are. So from that perspective alone, just for knowledge of the Cowboys and what they're doing and where they fit in the roster, it is pretty fun. Of course, there's some nostalgic purposes as well. And before we do skedaddle, for nostalgic purposes, I did want to mention some of the names that they put in for this game are absolutely epic. The head coach, a.k.a. Mike Gundy, his name in the game is Francis Eaton, which is an ode, of course, to Frank Eaton, which was the original Pistol Pete. The offensive coordinator, a.k.a. Casey Dunn, his name is Edmund Lowe, which is a reference to the Edmund Lowe Library, which is like one of the oldest buildings in all of Oklahoma, especially on campus there at Oklahoma State. Another a nice little ode there. And then the defensive coordinator, a.k.a. Brian Nardo, his name is Willie Murphy, which is, of course, a shout out to Murphy's and Willie's and the strip that is famous at Stillwater, Oklahoma. They're trying to change the strip. I don't know why. I don't like it. I've jumped on that soapbox before, so I'm not going to do it here. But yeah, make sure that you guys let me know down in the comments section who are some Cowboys that you're intrigued for as far as a prove-it season is concerned. What do you think about Rangel and Flores in the EA Sports ranking system? Are there some Cowboys that you also think are dreadfully too low? Is there some Cowboys that maybe you think maybe are a little too high? Let me know down in the comments section. Until next time, where we are going to break down defensive ends, sprinkle in some defensive line stuff. Until then, as always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. Make sure that you go check out Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. He'll keep you up to date with what's going on in this realignment landscape. We'll cover a little bit of that tomorrow as well. Defensive ends, realignment, Mike Gundy, the good stuff. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen. Go make a Drake your second listen today. All righty, y'all. Thanks a bunch. God bless. Go Pokes. Later, taters.